Hey guys, this is Will at Third and Long. Today, the top 25 poll came out Tuesday afternoon, so we're just going to be running through that, breaking down where every team fell on that top 25, if they were too high, too low, or if they were ranked right where they should be. So go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get started. So coming in at number one, we had the Georgia Bulldogs. So Georgia was coming off of a 48-7 win over UT Martin. Pretty much everything went as well as it could have gone for them. It was a pretty not interesting game. They did what they were supposed to do. Obviously, they are going to stay at number one because they're the two-time defending champ, and really nothing's happened to change that. So Georgia is number one. Coming in at number two, we have the Michigan Wolverines. So Michigan was coming off of a 30-3 win over East Carolina. Kind of a boring game. J.J. McCarthy did pretty decent, but the rushing attack really didn't get going. But Harbaugh couldn't coach because he's serving a 3-game suspension. So good win versus a pretty decent FBS team. Obviously, nothing happened to supplant them from number two, but they also didn't do anything to actually move up to number one. So-so game. They got the win, and the defense still looks strong. So here's our first change from the previous poll in week one. We have Alabama moving up one spot into number three. Now, Alabama is coming off of a 56-7 win versus Middle Tennessee. Pretty much Bama did everything that they were supposed to do. They beat the crap out of Middle Tennessee. The offense looked pretty good under Milroe. Defense looked good. Completely changed coordinators. Kevin Steele in at defensive coordinator and Tommy Rees in at offensive coordinator. Everything looked great. So obviously Bama is going to be a run-heavy team, running from the running back position, but also the quarterback running. I think he threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for 2 touchdowns this past Saturday. So Bama looked pretty good. They have them moving up one spot into the number 3 position. I don't think anyone really has a problem with that so far. They don't have a tough schedule this year, but as long as they win out, they should stay in that top 4. But things will start getting more difficult because they do have Texas coming up this week. That'll be a pretty difficult game. Now, if Alabama beats Texas, could they jump Michigan into number 2? That is very possible. Not that Michigan's done anything to fall out of the number 2 spot, but due to having a win versus a top 10 team, Bama will probably move up to number 2 if they do indeed win this weekend. Now, coming in next, moving up 4 spots, we have the Florida State Seminoles. So the Seminoles are coming off of a 45-24 smackdown of LSU. So they beat them pretty handily. Like I said, 45-24. The game was really close first half. Second half, complete blowout. I don't know what happened that fourth quarter, but LSU really let the game get away from them. So do I have a problem with Florida State moving into the top 4 and moving up 4 spots? No. So basically, so far, they have the best win this season. So I wouldn't even have a problem with them being number 1, technically, because it's what have you done so far this year? No one's played any ranked teams. No one's played any tough teams. So they have the best win. But obviously, Georgia's the 2-time defending champ. They didn't do anything to fall out of the number 1 spot. So I have no problem with Florida State moving into the top 4. Now, do I think they will finish the year top 4? Not necessarily, because as I said before, I think both Florida State and LSU are both overrated. However, I thought that LSU was the more overrated team, and I actually picked them to go 9-3 this year. Best case scenario, 10-2. They got way too much praise last year. Brian Kelly, great coach, very talented team, but they're not a top 5 team. I don't know how they got that ranking. Florida State was the better team last year, and they were the way better team this year. But I have no problem with them being in the top 4 because they have the best win of the early college football season so far. Jordan Travis looks great. He will be getting a lot of Heisman talk throughout the whole year. So Florida State moving up 4 spots into that Final 4. Next, coming in at number 5, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes, falling 2 spots from number 3 to number 5, and they should honestly be happy that that's only as far as they fell, because they could have dropped far worse. So they won at Indiana 23-3. This game was awful. Kyle McCord did not look good. He looked like he was running in mud the whole time. His release is really slow. They have the best wide receiver core in the country, and Harrison Jr. had 18 yards. So he was basically just there blocking the whole game. So I don't know what Ryan Day was doing, because even though they said Brian Hartline is the coordinator, Ryan Day was the one calling plays on Saturday. So obviously he did not relinquish that duty. They looked awful. Running game did not look good. Defense played great, but they were playing the Indiana Hoosiers, who probably will not get a bowl this year. They'll probably get 3-4 wins. So that's not very impressive that they only gave up 3 points, but okay, props to them. But how do you only score 23 points versus an awful team? This is Ryan Day's thing. He scores points. He develops quarterback. McCord and Brown are both 5-star quarterbacks. Now, they said McCord will be starting this Saturday. Do I think they're going to go with Brown? No. So you have Notre Dame in 2-3 weeks, so you can't cause a quarterback controversy right now. So you got to stick with McCord at least for several more games to see what happens. But as of right now, that offense is not clicking at all, and that's their strong point. It's pretty much a given that every season they will be scoring 42, 45 points. So maybe they'll get better, but they have to stick with it, and they have to try to make things work. Now, Kyle McCord, this is his third year at Ohio State. So he's not a freshman. He's been in the same system now for 3 years. So he should have a better understanding of the playbook than this. And he has the best weapons in the country. So there's no reason technically why he shouldn't have been able to play better. But they did drop 2 spots to number 5. I am fine. Well, you know what? No, I am not fine with that. I would have dropped them far worse than that. I'd have dropped them down to 10. You have to show me that you deserve to be the top 5 teams. You don't just get top 5 because you suck on Saturday, but you have a great brand, so we just give you the benefit of the doubt. No, Florida State moved into the top 4 because they proved it. They beat a ranked team, and they played well. Ohio State basically came out and played the worst game of the season, possibly scoring less points than the Iowa Hawkeyes, and we still reward them with top 5 ranking? I don't think so. I have a big problem with that. They are only at number 5 because of their brand. That's the only reason why the AP voters kept them there. So coming in at number 6, we have USC. So they didn't move anywhere. They beat Nevada 66-14 this weekend. Defense looked great. Caleb Williams looked great. They should have jumped Ohio State because they at least beat the crap out of their FBS competition that they played. Ohio State technically probably played a worse team and scored a third of the points that the Trojans did. So definitely they should be above them. But anyways, they just stayed where they were at number 6. Coming in at number 7, we have Penn State. So Penn State again stayed exactly where they were. They beat West Virginia 38-15. You know what? I'd have put them in front of Ohio State too because they at least played better than the Buckeyes did. Because the Buckeyes need to earn their ranking, not just be given it. If you perform bad, you should drop down the list. But anyways, they stayed where they were this week, coming in at 7. But I'd have moved them up, 1 or 2 slots. Anyways, coming in at number 8, we had Washington. Washington moved up 2 spots. Last week, they were number 10. They beat Boise State 56-19. That was one of the better wins of the weekend. Boise State is a great non-Power 5 team. They were a 10-win team last year. They pretty much win 9 to 10 games every single season. Very good team over the last 20 years. How are they not in front of Ohio State? You cannot tell me that as of right now, if those 2 teams were playing this Saturday, Washington would beat the brakes off of the Buckeyes until the Buckeyes get better. I'm not saying they will not get better, but it's what have you done as of right now. They moved them up 2 spots. They are now number 8, but like I said, they should be in front of Ohio State as well. Coming in at number 9, we have the Tennessee Volunteers. They actually moved them up 3 spots. So last week they were number 12. They beat the Virginia Cavaliers 49-13. Good win. As we said previously, Joe Milton coming in at quarterback. They had to replace Hooker, Hyatt, Josh Heupel. Great coach. Defense played well. But you know what? They were playing Virginia, who is a dumpster fire. They're probably a 3 or 4 win team, but they beat them as bad as they possibly could have beaten them. So I'm fine with them moving them up, a couple of spots, but do I think they're going to finish the year 9? No. I think they're way too highly ranked there, but it's fine as of right now. Trust me, they will get knocked down the list later on in the season once it gets into conference play. Coming in at number 10, we have Notre Dame. Notre Dame was 13 last week, so we have Notre Dame moving up 3 spots. Notre Dame beat Tennessee State 56-3. Notre Dame has only given up 6 points in 2 games this year. Great showing so far from Notre Dame. They did move them up 3 spots. I did project that they would be getting into the top 10 this week. However, you cannot tell me again that Ohio State should be 5 playing horribly versus Indiana, whereas Notre Dame, who's played twice as many games as them and only gave up 6 points and beat the crap out of the competition. Sam Hartman looks great. They should be in front of Ohio State. That's completely not fair. They've so far this year probably have the best build-up so far this year because they were only 13 last week and they've been playing well. Now, they get their chance. They get Ohio State in a couple of weeks. If they beat them, they better swap those teams and they better knock the Buckeyes down the list. Coming in at number 11, we have the Texas Longhorns. So the Longhorns basically stayed right where they were. I'm fine with that because they didn't do anything to fall down the list. They didn't do anything to move up the list. It was pretty much kind of a let down, boring game. They did beat Rice. They won 37-10, but a very sloppy game. They need to get the running room going there. They did not rush the ball well. Quinn Ewers didn't look his best, but they didn't do anything to lose the game. It was just an unimpressive game, but I'm fine with that because they probably had their sights set on Alabama this weekend. They didn't want to do much with their playbook this past Saturday. They didn't want to put anything on tape, but I also think they didn't want anyone to get hurt. So they were fine just playing safe, just get the team into Tuscaloosa healthy, and they will do that. They will have their chance to play Alabama and potentially move up the list if they win this weekend. So I was fine with them coming in at 11. Coming in at number 12, we have Utah. They actually moved up 2 spots. Last week, they were number 14, and they beat Florida 24-11, so they moved up 2 spots here. Am I okay with them being 12? No, I don't think that they are the 12th best team in the country. However, with where they were ranked last week, beating Florida, I'm fine with them moving up this early in the year, but they're not going to finish the year there. Now, I do think that they will finish the year ranked. I love the Utes. I love Kyle Whittingham. Great team, very disciplined team. But the Pac-12 is loaded, and they are not one of the best teams in the Pac-12. Now, when I say best, I'm talking top 1 or 2. So the Utah team last year was better than this year's team, but they're still a really good team. They'll probably go 9-3 this year, and that's a great season for them. Them beating Florida doesn't mean much to me because I picked them to beat Florida with their second and third string quarterback because, let's be honest, the Gators stink. They stunk last year with Anthony Richardson. What did people think they were going to be this year with Graham Mertz? They're not making a bowl game this year. It will not happen. Billy Napier has a long road to rebuild. He is recruiting well, but things are going to be pretty tough in Gainesville, Florida right now. So that's not a impressive win to me, but I'm fine with, as of right now, them moving up 2 spots just because no one did anything behind them technically to jump them at this point of the year. Except for maybe who we could have coming in at number 13 who moved up 2 spots, and that's the Oregon Ducks. So Oregon, although they played Portland State, they beat the brakes off of them. They won 81-7 versus Portland State. That's right. They hung 81 points on Portland State. Even if that is a FCS team, that's still impressive these days to get 81 points in one game, especially with the new clock rules. So they move up 2 spots. How do you score 81 points in the first week and only move up 2 spots? So you're telling me that Oregon's not better than Utah? As of right now, nobody would actually pick them to beat Utah? I mean, come on. I would pick them to beat Tennessee. They should have jumped them. They should be a top 10 team as of right now. Now, fringe top 10 team. I'm not saying put them in the top 4. I'm thinking 9 or 10, and I would be happy with that. I'd put Notre Dame in front of them at maybe 9, and then Oregon at 10, and then you could put Tennessee in, and then Texas and Utah. But they should not be behind Utah. Utah scored 24 points. versus an awful Gainesville defense, and Oregon would beat them as of right now on any field. So, but Oregon did move up 2 spots, so they are number 13 as of right now. Next, coming in at number 14, we have LSU. They dropped them 9 spots, so they held that loss on them pretty heavily. They dropped them from, number 5 down to number 14, so 9 total spots. That's a pretty good drop for having lost to, as of right now, a top 4 team. But they have a difficult schedule, so they do have games in front of them to move back up the list. But LSU, as we stated before, lost 45-24 to Florida State this past weekend. I'm fine with them dropping them down there. They did lose. They did lose pretty handily by the final score. So they're kind of right where they should be. They are overrated to me coming into this season. I think they're a 9-3, 8-4 team. So they'll finish in the year top 25, maybe someplace from that 14 to number 20. I think that's where they will be falling in by the end of the year. Next, we have Kansas State coming in at number 1. Now, Kansas State this past weekend, they were ranked number 16, and they beat Southeast Missouri 45-0. So they have them moving up 1 spot. I am fine with that. Kansas State is the defending Big 12 champ. They beat Southeast Missouri basically as much as they could have, 45-0. So they didn't give up any points. However, they did not play a good team at all. So I'm fine with them because they won. They should move up 1 spot. They have a pretty difficult schedule in the Big 12 this year. Will they finish the year top 25? Not quite sure on that, but since they were 16 last week and they shut out their opponent last weekend, then yeah, I am fine with them moving up 1 spot. Coming in at number 16, we have the Oregon State Beavers. They actually have them moving up 2 spots. Now, this past weekend, they won 42-17 versus San Jose State. Yes, that's the same San Jose that played USC really close in week 0. So that's a really good win. This is Oregon State's best team they've probably had in a very long time. They won 10 games last year. A lot of build-up for them. It just kind of sucks that their best season ever is when the Pac-12 is so loaded. The Pac-12 is probably the deepest conference this year, and there's just so many good teams there. Washington, Oregon, USC, Utah, the Bruins. The list just goes on and on and on. Washington State has started the year good. So definitely think that they did deserve to move up 2 spots. A lot of props to them to moving up to number 16 with DJU, who looked really good this past Saturday. And they have a very tough schedule, but I'm fine with them being where they are. They should have started the year ranked where they were, and that just sets up for a lot of really good Pac-12 games down the stretch. Coming in at number 17, moving up 4 spots, is the North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, the Tar Heels were 21 last week. They beat South Carolina 31-17. I'm not fine with them moving up 4 spots. They beat a unranked Gamecocks team who was very much overrated. I picked the Tar Heels to win the game, not because they were so great. I did think that Drake May would win them the game. That did not happen. It's actually the defense that won in the game, and Drake May was just serviceable and did not cost them the game, but he basically has no weapons to be throwing the ball to. So it's Drake May or bust, but they played very well. South Carolina was overrated. They were a flash in the pan last year. Yes, they beat Tennessee and Clemson to end the year, but that's it. What else have they done all of last season? Not saying they're bad, not saying Spencer Rattler's bad, but way too much buildup. They weren't even ranked, but yet the Tar Heels get to jump 4 spots for having beat them. That doesn't make any sense to me. To me, they belong in the latter portion of the top 25, like 22-24. I think they belong right in there. I projected them, I think, this year to go 9-3 or 8-4. So to me, that's kind of where they fall. Coming in at number 18, moving up 2 spots, we have the Oklahoma Sooners. So Oklahoma beat Arkansas State this past weekend 73-0. 73-0 versus actually a FBS team. How are they not in front of Oregon State? How are they not in front of Kansas State? I don't understand that. This is one of the top 10 talented rosters in the country. Their defense is completely retooled through the transfer portal. They have recruited well. They have Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, who is a really good quarterback. He was hurt last year, so a lot of people didn't get to put their eyes on him, but he was really good when he played at UCF. So I'm expecting big things and much improvement from Brent Venables' team this week. I think they should definitely be higher up on this list. They need to be climbing up, to me, to 14 or 15. They're not giving them proper respect for one of the better wins of this weekend. 73-0. That is an accomplishment. That's twice as many points as Kansas State scored, and they did it on an FBS team. So let's give them some props. Let's move them up the list. But then again, they will get to play a lot of the teams in front of them this year. But I think they should have been higher, but they're number 18 this week coming into the poll. Coming in at number 19, we have the Wisconsin Badgers. They beat Buffalo 38-17. Not a very good showing from Tanner Mordecai. So Luke Fickell, great coach. I love Phil Longo as the offensive coordinator. Running game was loaded this past weekend. They had 2 guys almost get 150 yards rushing each. I'm fine with them staying right where they were. They did not play bad, but the offense didn't necessarily play good. But it's a completely retooled offense running the air raid from what Wisconsin used to be, which was a downhill I formation team. So I'm fine with them staying where they were because they didn't do anything to move up or down. They just kind of stayed lateral. So let's keep them right at 19. Coming in at number 20, we have the Ole Miss Rebels, moving up 2 spots from 22 to 20. Ole Miss this past weekend, they beat Mercer 73-7. They beat the crap out of Mercer. Lane Kiffin's team looked good. Jackson Dart looked good. Spencer Sanders coming in looked good as the backup. They only moved them up 2 spots. I don't understand that. Great win, good team. I would put them in front of the Tar Heels. I would put them in front of Kansas State, honestly. I'm not saying there's some great team, but I think that with Lane Kiffin and with the offensive playmakers, I'd put them in front of Wisconsin as of right now. I would put them around 18. I think that's a safe place to put them, but it's fine. They did move them up, so they did give them some props, but they did move up from 22 to number 20. Coming in at number 21, if you can possibly believe it, we have the Duke Blue Devils. They beat number 9 Clemson Monday night, 28-7. The upset game of the weekend, if you want to call it that, till we get to the next team. But they did not move up. They moved into the top 25. So congratulations for them. Riley Leonard, the quarterback. A lot of people are actually talking about him getting drafted first round. So congratulations to him. Duke looked great. Now, Clemson lost the game. Duke didn't win it. Clemson lost it. Fumbles, picks, sloppy play. But Duke, being a well-coached team, they took advantage of that. That's what they lived off of last year, playing smart football and getting lots of takeaways. They went 9-3 last year. Do not underestimate the Duke Blue Devils. Are they going to win the ACC? No. However, I think they're a 9-3 team, at best 10-2, but I think 9-3 is more kind of where they fall. 8-4 worst case scenario, best case scenario 10-2, more than likely at 9-3. Welcome to the top 25, the Duke Blue Devils. Not just a basketball school this year. Coming in at number 22, we have the Colorado Buffaloes. They probably had the upset game of the weekend. They beat TCU, who was overrated. They beat them 45-42, but it doesn't matter if they were overrated. They were like 21-point favorites by Vegas. They beat the team that went to the national championship. Lots of praise for Deion Sanders, lots of praise for his son Sanders, who had like 510 yards. You had 4 guys who had 100 yards receiving. Crazy game. They were out there basically throwing the air raid, and they threw it down TCU's throat. Great win for them. I have no problem with them being number 22 because TCU was technically ranked coming into this year. They beat them, so I'm fine with them going into the top 25. Do I think they are a top 25 team to end the year? No. I think at best 7-5. More than likely 6-6 team, 7-5 at best. But they won 1 game last year. Mad props to Deion Sanders. Just the fact that he got them into the top 25 week 2 is a testament, and they do deserve to be there as of week 2. They will not finish the year there, but they deserve that ranking as of this week in week 2. Coming in at number 23, we have Texas A&M. So they're not moving up, they're not moving down, they're staying right where they were before. They beat New Mexico 52-10. I'm fine with them being ranked where they are, not moving up, not moving down. They had an easy game this weekend, but they won it as best as they could have won it. They beat New Mexico pretty soundly. Bobby Petrino looked great as the offensive coordinator. Good hire by Jimbo Fisher. From what we've seen so far, it looks like he's given up those reins. Now, maybe when it gets close, he might start tightening them, but as of right now, it looks like he has indeed given up play calling duties. They have a big game this weekend. They're going to Miami to play the Hurricanes. If the Hurricanes beat them, they'll be jumping into the top 25 and they'll be moving out. But I'm fine with them staying where they are as of right now. Coming in at number 24, we have Tulane. Tulane beat South Alabama 37-17. Tulane beat USC last year in the bowl game. Michael Pratt looked good at quarterback. They looked like where they picked off last year. So I'm fine with them staying at 24. Will they finish the year there? I don't know. I could see them potentially going 9-3 this year, which is a good year. They could potentially stay in the top 25, but if they lose one game, they'll be getting thrown right out of the top 25. But I'm fine with them being right where they are because they played a really good game. Coming in at 25, we have Clemson dropping 16 spots. They're getting punished, but they did lose to the Duke Blue Devils, and they lost horribly. Clemson only scored 7 points. That's pathetic. I would not have had a problem with them getting completely thrown out of the top 25, but since we're moving Duke in, it is fine to leave Clemson in with their only loss having now been to a ranked Duke team. But Dabo Swinney, Garrett Riley, Cape Clubnik, they really need to right the ship. They need to get the ball rolling. They need to punish every team going forward to make it look like this was a mirage, basically. But that is the top 25 for week 2. The next teams that we have that got some votes, we have Iowa Hawkeyes. Pathetic game. They only scored 24 points this past weekend. It was like 24-10 or 24-13. I mean, come on. Kirk Ferentz, fire your son. You can't score 25 points per game versus horrible teams. It's just a joke how much they do not care about offense at all. You can't win every game with only defense. And then the Bruins had 55 votes. So those are your teams that are just on the outside looking in, but the Iowa Hawkeyes won and they got thrown out of the top 25. And I'm fine with that. If they win this weekend, they'll probably move back in. I think they have Iowa State, so that's a good win. So if they win there, then they'll be back in. And if A&M loses, they'll get thrown out. But that's the top 25 this week. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks.